Hi everyone, Christina here. Welcome to day 3 of the 2016 holiday card series. I'm going to be creating 2 watercolor cards today, and I'm not using any stamps for this. I'm going to be using some nice watercolors, but if you don't have really nice watercolors, you could definitely do this with whatever watercolor paint you have on hand. So I'm starting out by putting a little bit of drawing gum. This is a masking fluid inside a dish. I'll be painting with it. And I've also folded my card bases that are made out of watercolor paper and put a little bit of tape right above the fold just so it's a little bit easier to see where the fold is. So I'm going to be painting on a bunch of little trees, and I'll just do basic triangle shapes and then a little trunk at the very bottom. And that's pretty much all it is. It's super, super easy. The thing you want to remember when you're painting a little tree cluster of trees like this is go ahead and vary the size and shape of the trees as you go along. It works up pretty quickly. In fact, I did a kind of a test card before this one, and I just fell in love with all of these little trees, and so I wanted to try painting it in 2 different ways. So this first way uses masking fluid. If you don't have drawing gum, you could use any other type of masking fluid, including a Molotow masking pen if you have that on hand. You'll get a little bit more precise lines by painting with the masking fluid as opposed to using it in a marker like with the Molotow, but you can definitely improvise and use whatever you have on hand. And one of the reasons why I like to use this particular drawing fluid or masking fluid called drawing gum is that it goes on with a gray shade. So it's super easy to see where I'm applying it, and I can just paint all these little trees and not have to worry about overlapping them by mistake or anything like that. Speaking of mistakes, if you paint one of these little trees and you don't like how it looks, just wait for it to dry and you can rub it off with your fingertips. It's super forgiving, and it's a great way to get a really cool watercolor effect. So I'm going to set this one aside to dry. You do need to have the drawing gum completely dry before you paint over the top. And I'm going to work on the other card. This other card, I am going to be painting the exact same cluster of trees or pattern of trees, and I have that previous one that I painted with drawing gum off to the side just so it gives me an idea of the different tree shapes that I'm going to paint. You could definitely just paint different shapes in whatever order you want, but since I'd already painted that one in drawing gum, I just used it as a reference. As far as colors go, I'm using 4 different colors from this palette over here. I'm using Mission Gold watercolors from Magello, and I'm just using these 4 green colors that look really nice to me. So one's more of like a yellowy green, one's more true green, one's a little bit more of an intense bluish green, and then I'm actually using an indigo blue. And this indigo blue is going to really gray out the color and give it some nice intensity near the bottom of the card. So I'm sort of changing colors as I move down the card front. So near the bottom, the colors are more muted. I'm using more of that indigo blue and making sure that the colors are nice and dark. It's a nice way to have a little bit of an ombre effect, but it's not completely in your face. It's a little bit more subtle. So I'm just finishing off with this little tiny itty bitty tree down here in the corner. And then that finishes this card. This one is essentially done. I'm just going to switch back to the masking fluid one, and I'm going to be using those same 4 colors and painting over the top of the masking fluid. So this is the really, really fun part. I'm getting a larger paintbrush and just painting right over the top. Wanted to mention a couple of things about paintbrushes while I'm doing this. The masking fluid or the drawing gum, I used a kind of a throwaway paintbrush, one that I was not going to be keeping, and I always use this same paintbrush for drawing gum. Masking fluid is notorious for ruining nice paintbrushes. So if you can, use a really inexpensive paintbrush or something you won't mind if it gets ruined. On the first tree card that I painted with the green colors, I used a size 2 round brush. And then I moved to a size, I think this is a size 6 or maybe even a 4 for this other portion of the painting. I think it's actually a 4. So I just painted all those colors on and then I set it aside to dry. I'm going to switch back to that other one and I'm going to add a few details using a white Jelly Roll pen. I'm just going to be adding some Christmas ornaments or different garlands or things like that onto these trees. They just looked a little bit too plain to me, and I thought adding these little tiny elements would add another whimsical look to this card. So I've added some dots for ornaments, and now I'm doing some kind of sloping lines for some garland. And then I'm going to create another dotted tree. I don't want to put all of these details on every single tree, just kind of in different areas of this cluster of trees. So this tree up in the corner I'm going to do with some scallops, kind of like scallop garlands, and then I'll do a garland using white dots. That finishes that card. I love how that turned out. I love the watercolor look. It's very playful. I think you could definitely do this card no matter your watercolor experience level, and it would look really great. So now I'm going back to the masking fluid card, kind of switching back and forth between these cards today, and I'm just going to take off all of that drawing gum, all of the masking fluid. You can definitely use your fingertips if you don't have an adhesive eraser like this, but an adhesive eraser or a kneaded gum eraser or something like that really catches all of that masking fluid and it takes it off even easier. So if you don't have this, you don't have to have it, but it does help with the process. So I'm going to take that blue tape along the folds off and I'll fold down my cards. And that is the card video for today. You've actually got two cards, kind of the same design, but different ways of executing the card. I hope you guys enjoyed. I will be back on Friday with day 4 of the holiday card series.